Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video you're going to be learning how to make this beautiful gown. If this is what you like to learn, please stay tuned until the end of this tutorial. Looking at the gown, you would find out that it came with a plain material at the up. You can make use of a crepe or a scuba fabric, whatever you love. Just make sure it's a plain material and it's matching with the Ankara at the down part. So what we are going to do is to fold with the biggest part of our measurement, and from there you mark out the starting line. So from the starting line, that is the shoulder line, you're going to mark the length of the plain part, that is the upper part. And once you are done with that, you're going to mark your shoulder to bust point, shoulder to the waist line, and then shoulder to the hip line. But then I forgot to insert the shoulder to the hip line, but you can as well insert that. Now once you are done with that, divide your shoulder into two. Here my shoulder is 8 inches, and you're going to have to insert half an inch extra. That would be for your stitching allowance. From that same shoulder line, come down by 1 inch, and this is for our shoulder slope. Connect that into the shoulder line, and then from here you have to divide your bust circumference by 6 inches plus 1.5, and that would serve as your chest line. Now, to make sure that you marked out this line properly well, you're going to have to insert that same 8.5 inches on that chest line and then connect it into the slope. For our neck measurements, I'm going to use a standard of 3 inches by 4 inches. So this is for the front neckline, but then I'm going to also insert the back neckline on here because I'm going to be making use of this front to cut out my back. So I just want to insert this, and by the time I want to cut the back, I won't go through the stress of marking out the back neckline again. So once you are done with that, you're going to go ahead and divide all your round measurement by 4 inches and insert that on your chest line. But then your chest line, you should insert half an inch. That would be for ease around the armhole. Now again, divide your bust circumference by 4 again and insert it on the bust point line. Do the same thing for the waist. Divide your waist into 4 and insert it, and then you go onto the hip line. Okay, as you can see, I've marked out the hip point. So your hip divided by 4 again, you insert that and then extend that to the length of the dress. Now you're going to come back again, and because this is a shift dress, in that case it's going to be a free gown, so but it's not that free. So what I did was to insert 1 inch is allowance, and once you are done inserting that, you go ahead and insert your stitching allowance. So for me, I used 1 inch for my stitching allowance also. That is what you can see me doing right here. So once you are done with that, you go ahead and mark out all your lines so it can be more visible for you guys to see. Okay, that is what I'm actually doing right now. Now that you are done with this, you have to go back to your shoulder again and insert half inch for shoulder allowance, and then you divide your armhole into 2, the line in between the slope and the chest line, divide that into two, mark it out, and mark out your back armhole. Now for the front armhole, you're going to go in by 1 inch. If you have been following my tutorial, this shouldn't be a new thing to you, but if you are new here, you're welcome. This is how we do it. Now once you are done with this, you're going to have to cut out the shape. So you start with the back neckline. Like I told you before, I'm going to make use of this front to cut out my back. The only difference between the back and the front here is the neckline and the zipper allowance, which I'm going to insert on the back. Okay, so now I've placed another fabric, and I'll be using this to cut out my back. So I'm marking out 2 inches for my zipper allowance, and then afterwards I'm going to place my front bodies onto the fabric, but then I placed it after the line that I marked, and then I'm trying to arrange this properly well. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So this is very simple. It's very easy to draft out. So for the armhole, I'm going to trace out all that I have in front, and once I'm done with that, I will now go ahead and trim off my front armhole. So now we are done with the cutting out of the back. The next thing is to cut out my front neckline, and then move over to cut out my front armhole as well. Remember to notch your zipper allowance, and then I'm going to modify the zipper allowance because I don't want any form of bulging around my zip area. Our spine is kind of not straight at the back, so you need to eliminate that form of bulginess around that area. So what I did was to, on the waistline, I had to take in by 1/2 inch. All right, and then I'll go ahead and cut this out. Especially this fabric is kind of stretchy, so you don't want to leave it that way. If you left it that way or you leave it that way, there is no way your zip is not going to be bulging. Okay, so make sure that you do yours just like the way I did mine. You can take in by 1 inch, 1/2 inch, but the maximum you can go is 1 inch. So we are going to be having pockets for this our dress. That is what I'm trying to mark out right now. So what I did is to measure from my shoulder line down to where I have my waist, and at that waistline I'm going to take my tape down to 6 inches, and that is where I obviously marked out, and that is what I was trying to show you right there. So for the damper, this is the damper, just as you saw on the picture that I showed you earlier. So for this one, I cut out a rectangular long fabric, and then the first step is measured 7 inches plus the folding allowance, and the second step measure, that is the longest step, measured 10 inches plus the folding allowance. Now this is the strap I'm going to be adding at the sleeve area. So looking at the picture of the of the dress, you would see that they also added a gathered Ankara to the sleeve. So that is what I'll be using for it. And then these strips are what I will use on the center front, that is the middle of the center front. Now I'm going ahead to cut out the sleeve. And you guys, I have a detailed tutorial on how to cut out a sleeve, so this might be very fast. If you want to understand how to cut out a sleeve properly well, go back to my channel, and we also link that video on this particular one on my description, so you go check it out if you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve block. Okay, so what I did was to fold my fabric into 4, and then from the starting line, that is from the top, I marked out the biceps, the elbow, and then the length of the sleeve. The length of the sleeve, I'm going to be making it a 3/4 sleeve, and then from there I calculated my cap height, inserted it, and then marked out my armhole curve. Okay, and then added my seam allowance. So right on the biceps area, I'm going to go ahead and divide my bicep by 2 plus my seam allowance. That is, I used 1-inch seam allowance. That is what you can see me doing right there. And at the elbow, I divided my elbow circumference by 2 also, and then down to the 3/4 sleeve, I divided around that parts by 2 also, and then marked out what I have. So I went ahead to cut out my sleeve, and you guys, that is it. I have my 2 sleeves in place. So the next thing I'm going to do is for us to cut out our pockets. If you want a detailed tutorial on how to cut out your pockets, please leave a comment on the comment section. And you guys, leave a comment for me. If you have any video suggestion, you can leave it on the comment section. Don't just watch without leaving a comment, because that would motivate me to keep on bringing on new videos for you guys. Okay, so now you can see I've cut out the pockets and also added 1/2 inch around it, which I'll be using as my stitching allowance. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So cutting out, make sure that you're cutting on the seam allowance. Then you guys, you can see the way I actually curved this pocket. Looking at it, you would see that the pocket is facing towards one particular side. Okay, so now we are going to start stitching. Okay, so to stitch up these, we are going to first of all join our zipper allowance together. So that is what you can see right there on the screen. I've joined my zipper allowance. Once you're done with that, the next thing you're going to do is to take your front piece to the ironing table and then fold into 2. Using your steam iron, you're going to have to create a line at the center of the piece. Okay, just as you can see me doing like this, and then you bring in a strap that you created, which you are going to be inserting at the front part. Okay, just as you can see me doing like this, bring it in, notch the center, all right, and making sure that it aligns properly well with the line that you created at that front part. You're going to have to go ahead and to the other strips which are going to form like used to form like a ruffles, you're going to create a loose stitch and then gather it up. Once after you've gathered it up, okay, so with the one I'm showing you, this is how you're going to go onto your stitching machine and then sew it up onto your dress. So after I was done with that, this is what we have. You can see, okay. Okay, now it's time for us to fix our pockets. So go ahead and bring in your pockets, and right here I'm going to be showing you how you are going to place this. Okay, so bring in you know that the pocket is 4 parts. So to one part of the pocket, that is a pair of the pocket, you're going to bring it in and place it just like the way you saw me place it. Okay, make sure that the curvy part is facing downwards, not upwards, so that your hand can easily penetrate inside. And once you are done using your pin to hold them together, this is what it should look like. So the next thing you're going to do is to go ahead to your sewing machine and stitch this onto your fabric. You're going to go ahead and repeat the same thing for the back. Okay, and this is the back. This is the back parts. So next thing you're going to do is to bring in your front, place it to the back, right side facing each other, and then using 1 inch seam allowance, you're going to have to join this exactly the way I'm going to be showing you right now. So you're going to go ahead to your sewing machine and then stitch using 1 inch, and coming to the pocket side, you're going to sew using 1/2 inch all around, and then come over to the other part and sew using 1 inch. Okay, just like the way you can see me showing you right now. So I've gone ahead to join this and I have my pocket. I'm going to insert my hand inside for you to see. So this is the pockets, and now you can see that the upper part of this our dress is ready. The next thing you should do is to go ahead and measure the down part of the dress. Okay, that is the hem of the upper part, which is the crepe fabric, and then bring in your rectangular Ankara prints. Remember I told you that this is supposed to be in 2 layers. So we have the longer one and the shorter one. Now the length, I used about 2 yards, just enough to gather up and fit into the hem of the dress. So you guys, I would go ahead to my stitching machine and create a loose stitch and then gather this up. So after I gathered it, this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the down part of my dress, and then I'll be fixing the gathered Ankara prints to the crepe. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to divide the, make sure that the Ankara which I gathered is equal, and then I'll tear up the zipper side of the crepe, which you can see me doing right there. So that is where I'm going to join the Ankara from, but that is not where I'm going to start fixing it. I'm going to start from the front. Okay, so the part I'm trying to tear up is the back, so I'm going to start from the front to start fixing, and then I will stitch up through the back. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this. Like I told you, I've notched the center of the gathered fabric, and then I would go ahead and sew this up. And after we sew this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine and stitch up the zipper parts, which you can see right here on the screen. And then once I'm done stitching this up, this is what we have. I'm going to also bring in my sleeve, and then this is the ruffle for the down part of the sleeve. I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine and also sew it to the sleeve, just like the way I'm showing you right now. And after I sew this is what I have. I'll also go back and stitch this up the side seam using 1 inch, and then this is what we have. So you guys, we're almost at the end of this tutorial, and then we are going to go right to our sewing machine also and stitch in our zip. So I'm using an invisible zip for this sleeve. It might not be visible by the time I finish sewing this up, and I will also go ahead and fix in my sleeves. So after I was done fixing the zip, this is what we have, and I've also fixed in my sleeve. So you guys, this is it, and this is the final look of this dress. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Remember to like, share and subscribe. I will see you in my next one. Bye.